selects for veterinarians. You may have wanted to be one when you were a kid, but you were not that kid who stayed up all night so you could clean the toilets in the house, or, worried that much about pleasing your teacher so you could get straight A's or any of those kinds of things, because you were normal. The universe selects for veterinarians because they are that kid who says, I have to do everything perfectly. They are that kid who, does the extra stuff, does the extra credit all the time, stays up all night so they can organize their note cards, color coordinates them even. That said, I'm Dr. Amy Hayek, president and co-founder at Animal Chiropractic Education Source. I speak to a lot of people, mostly doctors, but a lot of people who, and here's the funny thing, because I train veterinarians and chiropractors to build successful animal chiropractic practices, and not a one of my veterinarians who signs up for class says, I always wanted to be a chiropractor when I was a kid, but instead I chose veterinary medicine. None of them say that. Why is that? A large part of the population, like half of the women that I speak to in general, and they can be anybody. It could be the checkout at the convenience store. Oh, I always wanted to be a veterinarian, but I couldn't take the XYZ whatever, they name something, some frivolous small part of being a veterinarian. And I always think, no, it's probably, number one, because you couldn't make the grades to get into veterinary school. And number two, because the universe didn't select for you. Let's face it, you are a cashier at a convenience store because you needed a job and you were happy to take a job. Veterinarians don't just take jobs. They're people who say, I want to do something bigger and better. I want to be, Superman. I want to save the world. I want a cape and I want to fly all over the place. And I want to be that person who just goes bing and things get better and everybody loves me for it. That's what veterinarians are. And they start out that way as little kids. Chiropractors, on the other hand, I hear often from them, oh, I wanted to be a veterinarian, but instead I chose chiropractic because something happened in my life, usually an injury or an illness in themselves, maybe in their animal. And so then they were lucky enough to find themselves in a chiropractor's office where they got treatment and it solved their problem. It resolved the issue or the pain or the illness in such a way that they were astounded. This is like laying on of hands like Jesus, because nobody put anything into them. They weren't missing anything, and they didn't have to lose any of their limbs in order to get better. It could have been their dog. Maybe their dog couldn't walk, and they sought out a chiropractor who was trained in animal chiropractic, who could resolve that issue, and that dog went on to thrive and survive. Because we value our pets, those animals that we are closest to, in ways that we sometimes don't value our family. So my question today is, why is it that so much of the population at one point or another wanted to be veterinarians? What is it about being a veterinarian that draws people in, that says, this is a really great profession, this is something you should do, man, you can be a hero if you do this, and you can save lives? As veterinarians, one of the biggest things about being a veterinarian is being resourceful, being thoughtful, but also being resourceful and able to create solutions make decisions. Guys, this is the biggest spider web in the world. Sorry, distracted. You won't be able to see it on the camera, but it's up there and floating in the air. Some spider is trying to go from that tree to the dog pen and catch the cars as they come up the driveway. That spider could have been a veterinarian because it had aspirations for sure. If I stand here long enough, I might be able to capture it. That is a long filament. That's an amazingly long spider filament. You know, they say that they're using these now in the military to produce protection for our military. So that spider could be working for the military because it produces a lot of silk. I've gotten off topic. I am so sorry. Why do so many people want to be veterinarians? Because they get challenged to come up with solutions to things they don't even know the names of. They get challenged to come up with solutions for injuries, and gosh, you guys, animals are creative. They can create injuries. And I always love the question when somebody brings an animal in with this giant wound and the owner says, "How do you think that could have happened?" As if you were there or had, telecommunication with the animal. They always wonder those things. And I always say, well, I wasn't there when it happened, so I don't know. If you're a veterinarian or a chiropractor who always wanted to be a veterinarian and you would like to experience the next level of being able to be that superhero for your patients, find us today at animalchiropracticeducation.com, and you're in luck because we are moving the online portion of school to a new platform, which means we are looking for doctors just like you and your eyeballs to check out the new platform. And in return, we're offering 45% off of our regular tuition. Find us today at animalchiropracticeducation.com.